Are you tired of sifting through endless health advice that promises quick fixes but delivers nothing but frustration? Welcome to the Anti-Macro Podcast, the go-to place for scientifically backed yet digestible health and fitness wisdom without the fads or gimmicks. Whether you're looking to ditch chronic dieting, optimize your hormone and gut health, or simply find balance in your wellness journey, you're in the right place. I'm Coach Diana Lee, your no-nonsense guide to transforming your health and mindset for the better. Each episode, I'll dive into topics ranging from nutrition basics to debunking common myths to cutting-edge functional health insights, sometimes featuring guest experts in the space. Get ready to learn, grow, and take actionable steps toward a healthier and happier you. So grab your favorite beverage, kick back, and let's dive in. Happy 2026. As of this episode release, it is mid-January and we are kicking off yet another new year. In true fashion, the new year causes us to revisit our goals, maybe adjust old ones or think up brand new ones, and start seeking out ways to accomplish those goals. In the health and fitness space, we know that this month is notorious for diets and workout challenges that promise big transformations. But if you're listening to this podcast, I know that you're looking to make changes that last you long after January has ended. If you're somebody who sets big goals for yourself, works really hard towards them, and still somehow feels like you're falling short, even when you're doing a lot right, this episode is for you. I want to talk about something that I see constantly in high achieving women, especially when it comes to health and body goals. You're disciplined, you're motivated, you're not afraid of hard work, and yet no matter how much effort you put in, it still feels like you're behind, like you're failing. And what I want to challenge today is the idea that this feeling means you're doing something wrong. Because in my experience, both personally and professionally, it's often not the effort that's the issue, it's the way that success is being defined. In this episode, I'm going to share a personal and somewhat vulnerable story from my own life that has nothing to do with weight loss or fitness on the surface, but has everything to do with why so many people feel like failures, even when they are making progress. And as I tell it, I want you to listen not just for the details of my situation, but rather for the pattern, because it's likely showing up in your health journey in ways that you haven't fully seen yet. This isn't an episode about lowering your standards or wanting less. It's about understanding why chasing a single outcome can quietly sabotage the process and how redefining success can change everything. So let me start by taking you back to 2019, when I first started my online health coaching business. And I had absolutely no idea what I was doing when it came to actually building a business. As a result, I began to follow a lot of business coaches who spoke to health coaches, and I consumed their educational content to help me learn and grow. I jumped into investing in a coach for myself within my first year because I understood that there were people who walked this path before me that I could benefit learning from. I think it's also important that you understand my money mindset at this point. I was a person who consistently had credit card debt since my early 20s. I wasn't particularly great with money, and my debt always loomed like a shadow in the background. At the time that I began my business, I was working full-time for a CrossFit gym, which did not make a lot of money. My business began as a side hustle, but I always had the dream of making it my full-time job. I was pretty unhappy at the gym that I was coaching at, and my business was a way out of that job and my hope for a better financial future. Additionally, I felt behind my peers. My friends around me were all successful in their careers, making good money, and were able to spend it freely. I felt limited by my lack of income, and I wanted the freedom that I saw that they had. I was at a point in my life where my discomfort with my existing circumstances inspired me to dream of an alternative. The business coaches that I followed on social media, as well as other health and fitness coaches in the space, played directly into that desire that I had. The content that I consumed talked about how all of these other coaches around me were making full-time incomes from their businesses, enabling them to leave their 9-to-5 jobs and have financial freedom. I saw that and I wanted it for myself. It wasn't a bad thing for me to dream big, but here's where the issue was. The content that I consumed trained my brain to believe that financial freedom was attainable within just a year or two of running my business. In addition to this expedient timeline, there was a specific number that was constantly thrown out into the ether that many coaches use to display their success. That magical number was 100K. I adopted this number into my head as a measure of success. Like if I hit that number in my business, I would have made it. It was the number that would make all of my other dreams come true. I could leave my job at the gym, pay off all of my debt, and travel the world and do all these things that I wanted. I had this very vague sense of how this would all happen and what my business would look like at that income level, but I was convinced that hitting that goal would solve all of my problems. At the time, I didn't realize it, but this was the moment that my definition of success really stopped being mine. I thought that I was setting a personal goal, but what I was really doing was letting somebody else decide what success was supposed to look like for me. Now, the problem with this goal was that I had this super unrealistic timeline for reaching it. I had consumed so much content about coaches who hit that income goal in a short period of time that I thought it could also happen for me. The other problem was I wasn't fixing the root issue of my money problems in the first place. I struggled with debt because I had a spending and budgeting problem that I struggled to fix. I had income goals for my business, but I didn't know how to actually plan to reach those goals. I lacked foundations that I needed to achieve my goals and then ultimately maintain them. I directly tied my success in business to this one arbitrary number that I had been trained to strive for by the content that I consumed. So, year after year in business, when I struggled to hit that number, I felt like a failure. I was still stuck working at a job that I hated. My debt continued to creep up, and I began to doubt myself. I would cry to my now husband in times of frustration that I was a failure, and he always responded that I was, in fact, not a failure. It took me longer than it should have for me to realize that he was right, and my sense of success had been so warped that I just couldn't see it. The thing is, there were so many things that I was doing really well. I had a business that was, in fact, making money. I wasn't in the red and I was profiting since my very first year. That's a rarity in entrepreneurship. My clients were also doing well. I was, in fact, helping people. And the wins my clients were achieving and the testimonials for my coaching I would get proved that. I would even receive messages from people who simply consumed my content for free, telling me that I had helped them in some positive way. I was learning from mentors and I was working my ass off and I was growing as a coach and a business owner, even if I wasn't perfect. And this is the part that I see so many people miss. You can be doing a lot right and still feel like you're failing if the metric that you're using is wrong. One day I reflected on my money struggles and I realized that even if I achieved my income goal, it wouldn't change a damn thing. I had this sort of epiphany along the lines of, what if I haven't hit my goal yet? Because I wouldn't be able to manage my money at that level. If I didn't fix my spending habits, my lack of budgeting, and my inability to financially plan within my business, then chances are I'd have the same issues making 100K as I had then. I had also developed a sense of bitterness towards my business. I just wanted so badly for my business to be my sole income. And when I couldn't make that work, I still felt trapped in my CrossFit job. And this made me admittedly resentful. Look, I loved the clients that I was working with, and I loved the work that I was doing. And there were a lot of highs along the way. But I was also just so stressed from the countless hours that I was working and feeling underwater financially that it made it very difficult for me to find hope that I could actually make this work. I had felt miserable working in a corporate job. Then I was miserable at my CrossFit job. And now all of a sudden I was miserable running my business, which to me was shocking because I thought that if I did what I loved, I would finally be happy. I was also exposed to others making my income goal, and I saw the reality of it. There were people who were making six figures, but their expenses in business were so high that they were in just as shitty of a financial position as I was. Some of these coaches were working constantly, 70 to 80 hours of work each week for going social plans and the freedom that I had imagined would come with my business. Some of these coaches started having health problems of their own because their stress was so high. That was the first time that I really questioned whether the outcome I was chasing actually matched the life that I wanted. Ultimately, these observations made me realize that I personally wasn't willing to sacrifice certain things in my life to achieve this income, particularly at a very fast timeline. I was willing to make less, or I was willing for the process to take longer if it meant that I could take care of my health, nourish my relationships, and enjoy my weekends off. I knew that deep down, this number that I had set sights on was never the actual answer to my problems. I had simply thought that it would have changed my life without me actually having to take responsibility for changing how I was living. Letting go of the number did not mean that I stopped caring. It meant that I finally started building something that I could sustain. Over the next 2 years, I did exactly that. For one, I quit alcohol for a host of reasons, which I have talked about on a prior podcast, but doing so enabled me to spend less and pay off my debt. I learned to budget better and began being mindful of how I spent my money. I began tracking my business income and spending better and became a better business owner. I left my CrossFit gym for another gym because I needed to change my environment while still supporting myself with a second income. More importantly, I let go of the income goal that I had tied myself to and focused solely on building a business that I truly loved. I focused more on the wins within my business, such as results that my clients were getting and the joy that I found in creating helpful content for my audience. I needed to focus on the reasons that I got into coaching in the first place rather than the measure of success that so many people had drilled into my brain. Something else that I adopted in this past year was asking myself 3 daily questions. What is one thing that I'm grateful for today? What is one small thing I did well today? And what is one thing I did today that made me happy? I made reflecting on the positive aspects of my life a daily habit so I could let go of fixating on my deficiencies. I found myself frequently grateful for the work that I was doing and the people that I was working with. I gave myself kudos for tasks completed, client results achieved, and milestones met. In 2024, I had my lowest year financially in business, but I finished that year feeling hopeful. I had finally released my fixation on this 100K number. And even though I was farther away from that goal than I had ever been before, I knew that I was finally gaining the right momentum. I felt more connected to what I was doing, who I was helping, and the fact that my finances were not the sole determinant of my success as a coach. I had also paid off my credit card debt at the end of the year, and I was so proud of myself for this massive milestone. It was the first time that I had been debt free since my 20s. In 2025, I ended up having my best year in business financially ever. But more importantly, I loved my business again. I was so pumped about the transformations being made, the clients that I was connecting with, and the things that I was accomplishing that the finances were truly secondary to all of that. I felt that I had grown the most over these past 2 years, both personally and professionally, and I was proud of that. What changed for me is that I stopped tying myself to a single outcome being the determinant of my success. I stopped calling myself a failure because I wasn't yet at this distant goalpost that I had set for myself. I was honest with myself in realizing that I was not mature enough or ready to hit that income goal when I had wanted it the most. And my timeline for achieving that goal was completely unrealistic. When I stopped hyperfixating on reaching the end and began celebrating the good along the way, I felt more accomplished and I enjoyed the journey more. The reason I'm telling you all of this isn't because my story is special. It's because the pattern is incredibly common. My 100K financial goal is your physical transformation goal. You pick a number on the scale or how defined you want your body to be, and you set your sights on it. You automatically assume that being that size or that level of leanness will solve all of your problems. You'll finally be happy with your body. You won't nitpick your flaws, and you'll feel confident in every outfit that you wear. Maybe it even extends beyond that. You'll find a partner to settle down with. You'll get that job promotion that you're working towards, or you'll finally go on that trip that you have always dreamed of. You might not realize it, but that end goal holds so much more value beyond the number on the scale or the number of visible abs that you have. You're also constantly consuming content that reinforces that goal. The Fitspiration that you consume may not actually inspire you, but rather is a constant reminder of what you have not yet achieved. You see everyone else is posting their own transformations, and you wonder why it's not happening for you. You consume content of people and maybe even coaches sharing dramatic weight loss or muscle growth in a short period of time. You save posts that promise shortcuts to the end goal. You have it in your head that if you just stick to it, your results are just around the corner. But when those results don't come, just like me, you feel like a failure. You might consider how you might quit, pivot, or try something new to try to get to that goal more quickly. If what you're doing now hasn't gotten you to that final transformation yet, then maybe something else will. You ride an emotional roller coaster. Some days you feel like you know what you have to do in order to make it happen, and other days you just wonder if it will ever happen at all for you. What you don't realize is that many of those who are achieving your goal are not always doing it in the healthiest way. People have a tendency to show only their highlights, and behind the scenes, someone might be achieving their transformation goal, but at a cost. Whether it's missed social outings, eating disorders, or hormonal issues, there are many people who are living in your perceived dream body who aren't actually living the dream. And those people may still be unhappy in their own body, comparing their results to somebody else's. What looks like pride on social media can often be masking insecurity in real life. How I approach my 100K goal is how many of you are approaching your health journey, and it's messing with your head. You're measuring your success against the final goal, not the small wins along the way. And you're only measuring one metric of success. When the only thing that counts is the final outcome, everything that doesn't move you noticeably closer to it feels pointless, even when it's actually building the foundation that you need. This is causing you to hate the process and feel bitter towards it. So it brings up the question, what if it's not the effort that you're putting in that is leading to failure, but rather your measure of success? There's nothing wrong with having big goals. I think it's important for us to be able to envision ourselves transforming in order to set out and change for the better. We have to believe that we can accomplish great things to find the motivation to even try. And I don't think anyone should necessarily dream smaller, but we have to at least be realistic, whether it's with our ultimate goal, the timeline in which it takes to achieve that goal, or the methods required to attain that goal. Where the issue lies is when we define the big goal, and that goal is the only metric of success we measure ourselves against. This creates a sort of tunnel vision in which the only thing that you can see is the light at the end of the tunnel, but the light can be so far away that despite putting one foot in front of the other consistently, time and time again, you don't feel any closer than you started. When you picture it this way, you can imagine how that might leave you feeling defeated during the process if it feels like you have not made progress towards the goal. Let's say your light at the end of the tunnel is losing 50 pounds. You start meal prepping, watching what you eat, snacking less, and going to the gym more. But at the end of the month, you only lost 2 pounds. You have 48 more pounds to go. And at this rate, it'll take you 24 months to accomplish your goal. That feels so far away from you. And you wonder, was any of your effort even worth it? Maybe now you start researching how to lose weight faster and you start a no carb diet. All of a sudden, you drop 10 pounds in 2 weeks. You just multiplied your weight loss rate by 5 and you are stoked. So you keep doing this no carb diet. But after the initial excitement wears off, you start to miss carbs. You find yourself binging and needing to rein it back in. You put back on weight and lose it again. You start to feel sluggish and tired in the gym and your daily life. It gets harder to lose weight. Now you feel more frustrated than ever and even further from your goal. So you start looking for the next best thing and the cycle continues. This is a prime example of how fixating on the end goal alone can steer you off course towards a path that does not prioritize your health and well-being along the way. Let's go back to the initial scenario. You lost 2 pounds in 1 month after intentional health promoting behaviors, but this time you remove that tunnel vision. Instead of feeling bummed about only losing 2 pounds, you're celebrating other wins. Your clothes are fitting better, you feel less bloated, you have more energy, you're sleeping better, and you're binging less. What we're doing here is celebrating the behaviors that get us to the final goal, which builds self-confidence. You're working a muscle of sorts in overcoming hard things, so that way you can progressively build towards overcoming more hard things. Meal prepping just your breakfast can build momentum towards cooking your dinners at home, and that can build towards cooking 80% of your meals at home. Going for daily walks can build momentum towards going to 2 workout classes a week, which can build momentum towards exercising 4 days a week. Each step feels like an accomplishment, and when we feel proud of the progress that we've made, we are more likely to keep showing up and actually achieve the end goal, even if we encounter obstacles and setbacks along the way. When it comes to type A women who thrive on success metrics, this lesson goes to show that the end goal is not the sole success metric that we need to measure ourselves by. Success is multidimensional. It's not a highlight reel in which everything goes right and we sprint our way to the top unhindered. Success is a culmination of not just the wins, but also the times that we stumbled, got back up, and learned something from it. It's so easy to want it easy, to watch what others have on social media and say, I want that now and I want it fast. But by constantly comparing yourself to the big goal and others who are already living your goal, you're overlooking your own journey and the process you personally have to go through to become the version of you who can sustain that outcome. And that is another key too. You have to change the person you are now in order to sustain the goal that you want to achieve later. If you were handed that goal that you wanted today without changing a thing, you would likely not be able to sustain it. Just like in my personal story, I acknowledge that had I hit my income goal sooner, it would not have changed my life in the way that I thought it would. Had I not changed my habits with money and become a better business owner, I would have never been able to sustain my goals in a healthy way. And chances are I would have kept moving my goalpost further, seeking solutions to my problems in the wrong place. So often I stress the importance of building a foundation and not skipping over it. For many of you listening, you have a lot to overcome mentally and emotionally when it comes to food and your body. Future you who lives and exists at your end goal, whatever that is, likely understands how to fuel and nourish her body, doesn't have uncontrolled binges, knows what it means to have an 80-20 balance, and is consistent in her habits. If you cannot relate to her, then you have a journey ahead of you in becoming her. This is a good thing. As humans, we should seek to grow on the path towards our goals. Along the way, you are going to build knowledge, self-awareness, muscle, habits, grit, and tenacity. Your life is going to change in ways that you probably can't imagine right now. You are going to change in ways that you cannot imagine right now. But if you expect to achieve your goal and maintain it, you need to learn how to celebrate yourself along the way and enjoy the process. You might be thinking, damn, Diana, I just want a skinny waist and a fat ass. It's really not that deep. But yeah, it really is that deep. And I hope this podcast episode helped you better understand what's keeping you from hitting your goals, but also more importantly, what you need to do to achieve them this year. And if building your foundations is the best place for you to start in 2026, then be sure to check out my new free guide, The January Reset That Actually Sticks. Because January doesn't need to be another aggressive overhaul where you try to become a completely different person overnight. If anything, this episode should make it clear why that approach backfires so often. The January Reset is designed to help you step out of the all or nothing mindset and into the foundations that actually support long-term progress. Things like fueling consistently, building habits you can sustain, and learning how to measure success beyond just the scale or a timeline. It's not a diet, it's not a challenge, and it's not necessarily about doing more. It's about starting the year in a way that actually aligns with the version of you that you're trying to become instead of burning out by February. I'm also running a giveaway alongside the reset. When you download the guide, you are automatically entered to win a one-on-one intensive with me. My intensive is a personalized deep dive where we assess your nutrition, training, digestion, symptoms, and habits to identify what's actually holding you back and map out a clear, sustainable path forward. You'll walk away with a personalized roadmap, a 1-hour coaching call, and 2 weeks of support to build momentum implementing your plan. If this episode resonated with you, if you had a moment where you realized that you've been measuring yourself in a way that guarantees dissatisfaction, this is your opportunity to pause, recalibrate, and build something sustainable instead. As always, thank you for listening, and I will catch you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Anti-Macro Podcast. I hope you found today's insights valuable and actionable for your own wellness journey. Remember, true transformation comes from consistent, intentional steps forward. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated on all things health and fitness, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new episode. I release fresh content bi-weekly every Wednesday to keep you inspired and informed. And hey, if you loved what you heard, I'd be thrilled if you could take a moment to share this podcast with a friend or family member who might benefit from it. By sharing it with others, you're helping them on their wellness journey too. Keep striving for progress, not perfection, and I'll catch you next time.